A 1973 Mercedes-Benz for only $6,300.
What's wrong with it?
I'm sure.
I imagine it doesn't go.
The bottom's a little rusty and beat up, but this is the kind of thing. It's like 80% of the way. Like one of those restoring people could do this really easily.
I'll buy it and park it outside your apartment.
I got nowhere to put it. Also, the fuel efficiency.
Yeah.
And the noise. It would not. It's a 1973 car, but the style.
Man, at this point, thinking back, like, because I had a car from 92. That's a really old car by modern standards. And I actually have not seen a laser on the road in quite some time now.
Put it in the...
All right, guess we're good to go. I'm already live. Yeah, everything's good. It's Monday,
let me
October...
make sure I pushed record. Okay, I did push record.
Okay. It's Monday, October 20th, 2025. I'm Rim.
No, I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about technology bubbles. So, this past weekend, yesterday, we did something that we try to do every year, and it is a very, we live in New York City. It is a very stereotypical thing for people who live in New York City to go upstate, to look at the leaves and pick apples.
That's right. That's what you gotta do.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that while you're living here.
And it's funny because, like, as a kid, when I didn't live here,
carrot, it's not the big lettuce. All right, it's just the big apple.
But when I lived in Michigan, like, that just wasn't a thing because you could just go in any direction. Like, you'd see leaves everywhere and, like, apple pickings, like, everywhere. And
I mean, in Connecticut, same thing. But it's just, but it's like you just go to the close place. What do you think? The people upstate, it's like they don't go upstate to pick apples. They're just next to it.
Yeah.
But it's everyone in the general area does it. It's just if you're in the city, you have to go a little further to get there.
Yep. Well, I think what it is, too, is that how many humans are in New York City and how many of them want to go apple picking, and they all go north in the same direction aimed at the limited number of places you can do that upstate that are not too far away.
There's quite a few because you can go to Long Island, you can go to Jersey, you can go to New York straight up where we went, or you can go a little to the side to Warwick area. And there's a lot of options. Pretty much any direction. If you leave the city, you can find apple orchards. So it's just which one you like best. And a lot of them, you'd be surprised how they vary in terms of the apples, the quantity, the quality, the variety, the availability, and also the other non-apple things that they offer, their culture, their vibe.
Yep. Some of them are like show up and have a drunken party. Some of them are like have a picnic with your family. Some of them are like bring your dogs. We love dogs. Some of them are just like...
And they got other stuff. Some of them got pizza. Some of them got music. Some of them got poison.
Yep.
They all specialize to set themselves apart from the other ones, to attract different, visitors.
Yep.
If they're all the same.
But the one we went to, Fishkill Farms, this is not like an endorsement or an ad, but the one we went to, what I want to point out about it is relevant to a Monday Geek Nights. I have found that a lot of small businesses, just in general, like zoom out from apple picking, they do the thing they know how to do, but they never really in any way try to make themselves more efficient or improve the thing that they do. They kind of just keep doing the thing they do. And even if they want to improve, they very rarely use technology. But this place, they use technology. I can go to their website and reserve a time for apple picking, and it just works. And if I want to change the time...
They did that because it was a big mess when people didn't do that. So now they make you reserve to sort of,
Yep. And just like it was amazing that it all just worked very well and was very well thought through, because that is not my experience with small businesses using technology generally.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went to that one when we used to live up there and we're much closer to it, and it was way less than it is now.
Yep.
But, I went back to this one. I've been there, I guess, at least 3 times in the past 5-6 years, and it's upgraded significantly. Like they keep, they're investing in their business and improving it. So.
Yeah. So it was a good time. We spent the rest of the day hanging around in Beacon, which longtime Geek Nights fans may remember. That's where we started Geek Nights, in that house in Beacon, New York.
But yeah, I do like that apple orchard because they focus, the donut is up there in terms of the cider donut competition.
That's a top 10 cider donut on average, I'd say.
I'm not going to say it's the best one, but it's way up there, especially compared to how long you have to wait to get some and how much they cost. Because there's like some other ones you got to wait in like some enormous line to get one freaking cider donut, right?
Yeah, our dozen are already gone, so.
Yeah. We got 2 left.
How? Ours didn't survive through the morning. We also had the other cider donuts we bought in New York at a farmer's market after the protest march before we came in.
You can always get some more at TJ. The TJ one's not bad. It's obviously not anywhere near the farm one, but it's okay.
Yeah,
it'll do.
So while part of the reason why we had those cider donuts, Emily and I went to the farmer's market because the other news before we get into tech news is, of course, over this weekend was the No Kings protest across the entire United States. And
second one.
Yep.
Well, it's the second one that has had No Kings branding because they started off with different branding, and I've been to this. I guess this is the third one of theirs I've been to. There may have been more, but the first one was big. The second one was much bigger. This third one, I can't tell if it was bigger than the second one.
Based on CNN reporting,
the route was longer. So
based on CNN reporting, this was very likely the largest, or at worst, the second largest protest in American history.
It could be because you're adding up all the people all around.
Yeah,
the place,
it was the count is a little under 7 million is the official estimate of how many people went out and marched. And before, for those of you who are upset about the rise of fascism in the United States, you need to take heart in the fact that we outnumber them when push comes to shove. 7 million people gave up half their Sunday or Saturday to go walk around holding a sign. Like, it takes a lot to get 7 million people to do fucking anything.
Right. And think about this. If there was if I was the president, right, doing my far left stuff, at least as far as other people are concerned, it would be far left stuff that I would be doing. Right? A lot of it anyway. Would 7 million right-wing people come out? I don't think so.
No, I really don't, because I think 20% of people tend to just be fascist no matter what you do. Another, 20 to 40% are broadly reasonable, and everyone in the middle just kind of doesn't pay attention at all.
Right. It's like when they're, when the right-wing people, they hated Obama, maybe even more than we hate Trump. I don't know, but it's like they didn't, they did stuff, but they didn't do this.
Well, what strikes me the most is that those people basically won. They got everything they ever wanted and more. And yet it strikes me that not only they're just as unhappy as they were before.
But because you're wrong, they did not get everything
what they want
is
all of us to be gone, for slavery to come back. And
yes, they want white supremacy. They did not achieve that yet. And they also, it's like they did not get everything they want. So.
But protests like this are important because you're not going to change the minds of some right-wing dipshit with a protest march like this. But that is a signal. A march like this basically says, there is a large amount of people who are mad about this to do something. And it's also an implied threat. Protests like this are peaceful by design. The threat is simply that if the government continues to do bad or reaches even further, then those people are the people who would then escalate in kind. There's going to be more of these protests, and we'll see how it goes. But it is very much worth your while.
It's also more that, it's even if the people you're directly protesting, right? It's like they don't care, and they're just going to keep doing their evil shit and just ignore you, right? It's like, well, it's still a signal to other organizations and people, right? For example, there was just one news item. Trump sent that ultimatum to some universities, right?
Oh, yeah.
9. Right? And so far, I think 6 of the 9 have said, no, go fuck yourself. Right? So it's like they're looking around and they're like, well, this one asshole says we should just say yes, but these 7 million people would, probably put us on the shit list.
Yeah.
That factors in people who are reading the news, at least, and know what's going on in the world, who have decision-making power in other organizations. They take that into account somewhat.
Yep. Well, case in point, I just read an article.
People at the top don't have power if other organizations don't get in line.
Yep. But also, I just read an article on my way home from work about how a bunch of Democratic senators have basically said, even if they wanted to capitulate to the Republicans and give up on health care to reopen the government, the protest is a sign that they can't, because one of them was quoted as saying, "My constituents would eat me alive."
Yeah, there you go.
Like the fight for anyone who says, "Why don't the Democrats do anything?"
Yes, we would.
Yes, we would.
Do that. You're not wrong for once.
You booed Chuck Schumer and made the news about it. Like, I've booed him in an email every day for like the past 3 months.
You just have an automated email?
No, I write every morning. I write an email to someone. Not every day, but
okay.
not every person every day. But I make sure I'm just constantly sending very simple messages. Because the last thing about
pretty
this,
sure you've been filtered into the trash bin. When
no, I know how this works. But what they do with those emails is they basically bucket them into what was the issue, what side were they on, and that is a statistic that they get on like a weekly basis of how many people wrote into you about it.
You have the same email address sending the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, how many people and how many emails? It's not the same email every time. I write a new one every time.
Oh, you're cheating. You're spamming.
I actually write something, but
you're using a different email.
No, I'm using my same email address. I'm writing a different thing.
I thought you were cheating using the different addresses to make yourself look like
I do have alts for certain purposes, but I'm not using it for that. But where, say, if any of you remember a completely failed protest movement, Occupy Wall Street, which had a lot of problems, and I don't want to get into those, but if you were a fan of that movement, I suggest you look into what it actually was, because it wasn't what you thought it was. But anyway, where things like that fail is that they have too complicated a message or too like broad a message. No Kings has a really simple message. It fundamentally just boils down to no kings, no tyrants. Like, that's the kind of meme that resonates. If you're going to have a mass movement, your demands have to be very simple.
They tried different messages, and that one worked at the last protest. So they're like, you know what? Let's just stick with that one. And it still worked. So
simple messages travel further. The right wing learned that a long time ago. That's how Hitler memes spread. So if you believe in good things, you need concise memes, because anyone who thinks we should have a king, bad person. So we've sorted pretty easily here.
I mean, look, the Western Hemisphere, no kings. Oh. Eastern Hemisphere, mostly kings.
Yeah.
Right? Even the ones where the king's not politically in charge anymore, they still, Eastern Hemisphere, kings. That's what they got over there. Emperors, kings, even like Emperor of Japan, does he do anything? No, but they got one, right? Yep. Western Hemisphere, no kings. No kings on this side of the world.
I did notice in the United Kingdom, there were, because there were international marches too.
Directly, right?
But the UK No Kings March, they didn't call it No Kings. They called it No Tyrants.
Ha
The FARC meme was like, one king.
One king.
Emily was like, yeah, one king. Henri.
Is it instead of monotheist? Is it like monotheist or something?
Monoregis? Monoregis? I don't fucking know Latin. And I switched my Duolingo to Japanese instead of French, so long romance languages. Anyway.
That's way harder.
Yep. But I'm spending a lot more time in Japan, and anyway.
All right.
Big news, number one, though interestingly, this did not impact me or my work at all. Like, I would not have noticed this happened. AWS basically shat the bed, and a bunch of the internet.
This happened because I didn't work today because it's Monday, but also, even though our company uses Oz and customers use Oz for various things, my personal work is almost entirely just on my computer. So
yeah. And like I guess if I had tried to play Fortnite, I would have had a problem. But no, I was playing Overwatch, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, it's funny how, Oz and these other cloud providers, they offer all sorts of services and, architectures to sort of withstand any kind of outage, right? But it's sort of up to you, the customer, to implement things like multi-region and fallbacks. And Netflix famously has like their what was it called? The something monkey, the chaos monkey or whatever. Would, like they would run it against their own infrastructure, like randomly take things down. And that way they designed their system to where even though the chaos monkey was running, like Netflix didn't go down. And so that way, if there was a real problem, Netflix wouldn't go down. But clearly, whatever, I didn't read the details, honestly.
It was some sort of DNS resolution.
It's always
problem.
DNS.
Yep.
It's always. But yeah.
How many times have we talked on Geek Nights about how all this world of the web that we know today basically sits on top of a very small number of pillars of old technology that only old people understand.
But anyway, there was some sort of outage that people, even big people, big customers of Oz who are probably multi-cloud, multi-tenant, multi-region, and have these kinds of setups, they were either not set up properly or they were not prepared for this kind of actual outage. And a lot of things went down. I even saw people, for example, there's a hockey game that's going to start in an hour from this, about an hour, and people were like, shit, Ticketmaster was affected. Everyone, make sure you got your tickets on your phone before.
Yeah.
In case you get to the garden, it doesn't work or something. You don't know.
But the thing, a few things stand out. I'll link to another article on Wired that talks a little more about some of the takeaways here. But one, the internet for most people consists solely of a small number of websites and services now. Like that's how most people interact with the internet. So a vendor going down for most people means the internet doesn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, all the actual rest of the internet mostly continues to operate fine, and people who aren't like only using the biggest massive Uber services often don't even notice outages like this because they don't rely so heavily on all these various cloud things.
Yeah, but even GeekNights now, it's like I sort of had to throw in the towel and use Cloudflare because otherwise, like, it's actually not even our current website. It's actually like the old forum. Like bots will come in and try to scrape the old forum aggressively. And it's like, that cost me money and hassle. So it's like I had really not much choice but to put something in front of it, right? It's like I'd rather not use them, but like, what's the alternative?
Yeah, there aren't really like scalable, open alternatives to things like that.
Right. The only defense is power, like a data center with power and tech. I can't just set that up myself.
I mean, the only other defense is the complete reversion to private networks, trust groups, like walling yourself off from the internet. And honestly, I am increasingly...
Some things I can do that, but it's like I've got stuff that's already... I don't want to wall off what I've already got out, right?
Well, also, even if I wall off... Like, I've walled off most of my digital life, but Geek Nights, I want other people to see it. Not necessarily just people on my private network.
Do I?
But... things like this are only going to continue, and it's going to get worse. The internet's pretty fucked, and I don't really know what to do about it. And I think this topic is going to be looming large for the next couple of years, just in general on Geek Nights.
Right. The news, we talked about this, I think, before, but it finally happened. The date came. Is that Windows 10 is officially done, but it's not 100% done because if you're like a company or something and you really need to use Windows 10 and you really can't upgrade and you don't, whatever, there are ways that you can get Microsoft to continue supporting and keep using Windows 10 for now for some amount of time. I don't know. I didn't look up and see what the date was that you're really done, but
there are also a lot of ways to force Windows 10 to install on something that says isn't compatible. And
you mean 11?
Yeah, Windows 11 on something that it says won't work, and it'll probably work fine. But the thing is, there don't seem to be that many people in that situation. It seems like a lot of the people who are grousing on the internet, at least that I found, they could upgrade to Windows 11. They just don't want to for stupid reasons.
Yeah, but anyway... the other thing is that Windows 10, even if you're a normal person and not a company and you want to keep using it, you've got a few options. There's an extended support thingy, and one way to get it is to pay $30. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Another way is, I guess, if you have like a certain number of points in the... I guess if you have the points or whatever that is, I don't know. If you already have them, good. I wouldn't go out and spend money to get the points. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And then the third way is if you are using your Microsoft account to log into Windows 10 as opposed to like a local account, right? Because a lot of people really want to just use a local account. I understand the reasoning behind that, right?
Yep. I gave up on that. My Windows 10 computer.
I gave up on that a long time ago, but it's like
my Windows 10 computer is a local login. The HTPC out in the other room.
But if you don't have a local login, if you use a Microsoft account to log in, you can synchronize your settings. And what that will do is, like, let's say you go to another computer and log in with your Microsoft account, your Windows settings will be synchronized, which is kind of a nice feature, honestly.
It did fuck me over once because of a directory that was being used by OBS in my profile.
Yeah. But anyway, if you do that, theoretically, if you have that synchronization on, you should be able to go to the Windows Update somewhere and enable one more year of Windows 10 updates for free. And then next year, you're going to be sitting there with no option but to either do Windows 11 or Linux, or I do not recommend Windows 10 with no updates. That's a bad move.
That's the worst option.
Either upgrade and turn off all the ads and bullshit in Windows 11, which isn't really that hard, honestly, or use Linux, right? And you'll be okay. But yeah, the big thing is that, you're a listener of Geek Nights getting this news and you know what to do, but there's a lot of people in this world who don't know what to do. They bought a computer, they came with Windows 10, right? And they just use that computer, and that computer, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly good computer. They continue to use it. They have not upgraded because why would you? It's a perfectly fine computer. And now they're going to not get updates. And some of them will keep using that computer without updates, not knowing what to do or not even noticing or caring.
And this has happened with every new Windows OS for the history of Windows.
And they will suffer security consequences and get identity thefted, or who knows, or
what Scott is saying is, if your grandma's running Windows 10, you are the only one who can save her.
Right. And if these people are smart enough to understand that there's like a problem and they need to upgrade to Windows 11, but they can't because they can't upgrade to Windows 11. They try to, and it says, sorry, your computer's too shitty.
Yep.
Those people go out and buy a new computer, and they're not like upgrading that old one to Linux. Maybe they're smart and they sell it to someone else who knows what to do with it, but it's estimated to create like some enormous amount of e-waste. And in a just society, the damage caused to the earth by that e-waste should be forced to be paid by Microsoft.
I'd agree there.
We don't live in a just society, and so Microsoft effectively is just going to cause this tremendous damage to the earth by generating a fuck ton of e-waste and suffer no consequences.
Yep. But if, like, my plan is the computer out there, I'm going to try for funsies to install Windows 11 on it because it's an i7 6700K with no TPM.
Yeah, what can be the harm? It doesn't work.
Yep.
And then you install Linux instead.
Yep. I'll install Linux on it. But what I'm probably going to do, because I need a high-powered workstation out there for some VR projects, so I'm probably just going to replace the motherboard, CPU, RAM, and keep all the rest of the components, including the cooler and everything, and just upgrade it into a super powerful new workstation that's solely for games in VR. And then the old motherboard, I'll stick into some cheaper case and just have Linux on it. Maybe we'll give it away. Like, Emily's fixed a bunch of old computers we can give away, so it'll be one more Linux computer.
Yep. There's more games coming out that my PC cannot run. But I'm holding out as long as I can, and I'm even breaking my Steam first policy and getting games on Switch 2, because it's like there are games that will run on the Switch 2 more convenient and better than
like
on
Hades.
My PC,
I got Hades 2 on the Switch 2. Why not?
Same.
Yep.
Right. It's the same game. I'll be fine, even though I would prefer to get it on Steam. It's like, okay. It's working. It's the same price basically.
Yeah. Plus, with the Switch 2, I'll play it more often because I travel a lot again. So I can bring the Switch 2. I can play Hades 2 like on a plane.
I guess if I did that, then I would, but I don't. But yeah, I'm just gonna do everything I can, and buying some games on Switch 2 instead of on Steam is a way to delay buying a PC. And we'll see. Maybe when 6080 GPUs come out, 7080, we'll see how long I can go. But when I do get one, I'm gonna try to get like one that's basically like the smallest, like just a really strong GPU in a really small box.
Yep. because we've got 2 supercomputers here, which reminds me, I still have plenty of time. Even though, so remember way back, I got one blue screen once, and I basically went apeshit doing like full diagnostics of my computer.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I would have just restarted and moved on with life.
But during all that, I was able to force, with some extreme benchmarks, my CPU, which is one of the i9s that's impacted by that old thing that they fixed. I was able to force it to give me a CPU error that I couldn't replicate. But I have the log of it, which qualifies for an RMA. And because Intel actually did the right thing, as we reported way back, they extended the warranty on i9s that were affected significantly. Like, you have a super, super long warranty period. So by the end of 2026-ish, I can RMA this and get a brand new chip.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't buy an i9 even if I was the billionaire. It's like i7 is, it's like, you're not getting really much of anything compared to i7.
Well, there are very limited use cases for it. And one of them is stupid, which I don't do, which is crazy overclocking. But I do have a lot of highly thread-bound things that I do because of the VR stuff we're doing now. But even then, also, I should pull up the receipt. I got the i9 at a pretty steep discount. It was only like $110 more than the much.
I also, part of the reason I got the Mac in the first place is because the CPU is just the best compared to the AMD and Intel options. But if I had to get, when I will eventually get another gaming PC at some point in the future, AMD is actually, it's like, hey, I had a bad time in the past, but when you look around, it's like Intel's really in the shitter. I might have no choice but to give AMD a second chance.
I mean, we'll see. I'll let you.
It's a long ways out. The tables could turn at any time.
I mean, my computer is so powerful right now that I am probably 8 to 10 years away from getting a new one.
Yeah. No, I mean, I imagine the next gaming PC that I get will maybe the last possible. I don't know. Yeah. Right? It's like, it better last a long time. But I'm at the point where this gaming PC.
I'll give you a sense. So I have a 4080, right? A 4080 and an i9. I can run 144 FPS full quality VR on a Valve Index while simultaneously using OBS to record that stream from it, and also running full diagnostics and sharing my screen with multiple angles locally. And that nearly pegged the 4080 and did peg the CPU, but no problems.
NVIDIA no longer provides driver updates for the 1070 that I have.
My HD PC is a 1080, which I think is also not getting updates anymore.
I think it's also been cut off, yeah.
Yeah, it has one last update because I just downloaded a driver for it in the living room like yesterday.
I don't know when the exact cutoff is, but it's soon, if not already.
Yeah, but a 1080 is still fucking powerful hardware.
Yeah.
All right. Move the things. Da-da. But anyway, things of the day. So this video, the reason I picked it, because this is a video walking through the Hammond A100 organ, one of those old-timey electric organs. And if you think, something from the 60s or 70s isn't old-timey, yeah, that was a long fucking time ago in the year 2025. I think the 60s are now officially old-timey times. But that said, if you don't know how old electric organs work, this video is going to blow your goddamn minds. They were so complex and so difficult to build and maintain. Like, these are marvels of technology.
I mean, the original organs were a whole building full of pipes, and some guy figured out how to make a whole building full of pipes in a small thing you could have in your house.
Yep.
With electricity instead of a whole building full of pipes, physical pipes that had air blowing through them. It was quite magnificent.
So what this video is the first half of it explains how tone wheels work, because Electric organs back then have tons of physical moving parts, spinning wheels with magnets next to them and grooves to generate the sounds. They're called tone wheels. So the maintenance side of this, of like how to repair the wiring harness, where to put oil in your electric organ.
This is why most of the time, if you go to someone's house and they have a Hammond organ, it doesn't
fucking work,
or doesn't work right.
Yeah, you think tuning a piano every 6 months is expensive? Go look at how much it costs to find someone who knows how to fix a Hammond organ.
It's also why you can often get one of these things for free or cheap, because no one wants to move one, or it's not working right, or
Yep. So the first half of this video explains how it works and what the maintenance looks like on it and how the insides are. But then the second half of it does something that isn't as common in these videos. It explains, ignoring that internal side, what the user interface is and how to use it as a user.
It's mapped to the user interfaces of actual organs, right?
Yes.
So
like
similar.
It's got pull stops that are analogous to the pull stops on a real pipe organ. So
Correct.
If you ever wondered what those...
Because the idea was that people already knew how to play organs. They just wanted to, have more of them.
Yeah.
So they didn't diverge greatly.
So think about... in the modern era, like technology used today that has a slightly idiosyncratic interface, like the fact that in Adobe Premiere, there's a little razor blade icon to like cut a video track. The form of early technology tends to follow in the UX design for a lot of reasons. And this is a really good example of it. And if you watch this video, if you've ever seen one of those organs, you don't know how they work, you're going to finally learn what those inverse color keys on the left side of the organ are for. And they're not for what you think
I recommend if you actually want to, play, you should just use some sort of synthesizer.
Yes.
I would not recommend.
Buy a weighted key, modern, just regular ass, simple synthesizer. And you know what? You can make that sound like anything. It's the year 2025.
Just get a MIDI controller with, and plug it into computers.
Hell, just get an old Casio keyboard. They're actually great.
Yeah, there's a lot you can get.
Yeah.
But synthesizing is way better than actual organs, unless you really need the sound of a real organ for some reason.
So what do you got?
So speaking of gaming PC, I have a Mac. There are a lot of ways that if you have a Mac and you don't have any PCs whatsoever or any other gaming devices, that despite many games not being released for Mac officially, you can still get a lot of gaming going on, right? So obviously emulators are written for and compiled for every kind of platform out there. There's a thing you can get like crossover. You can use virtual machines. You can use, Rosetta. There's all sorts of options you can use to play a surprising amount of games on Mac, more than I thought, but still not much, not as many as you can with the PC. There is one other option, which is this website called Mac Source Ports. And what this is just a one page that lists various game engines or projects where somebody has basically source ported, like they had the source code of either the original game or an engine for the original game that has a compiled build for Mac, Intel / ARM, and therefore you can run that game natively on the Mac. And one of these that I used is, I think it's called EC Wolf, right? And it's like as long as you have Wolfenstein 3D, if you have the data files for the maps and whatnot, you download EC Wolf, just like it, ZDoom or any of those. ZDoom is one of them actually, and look at you're playing Wolfenstein 3D, and it's not in DOSBox, even though you could. It's not in a virtual machine. It's not a dual boot. It's a Mac native version of Wolfenstein 3D. And it was actually perfect. It was maybe the best Wolfenstein 3D that I played.
I see Heroes of Might and Magic 2.
Yeah, there's all kinds on here.
Carmageddon. Right? Elder Scrolls 2.
Yeah, if you've bought games on GOG or Steam, there's a lot of engines on here and whatnot. So, Mac gaming is, there's still, when you go to the Steam library and I click the little Apple button that filters the library to remove the non-Apple games, more than half the games disappear. Right?
Yeah.
But with the usage of various things on this website, a lot of those games that disappear that are old, right? You can make them work, right? Play Half-Life 1, I'll use Xash 3D. I can play Half-Life 1. So
in the meta moment, the Geek Nights Book Club book is still the running man on the website, apparently.
Oh, yeah, the GeekNights Book Club book is I Who Have Never Known Men.
Yep, Scott gave me the choice. I chose the dark one as opposed to the palate cleanser one.
By Jacqueline Hartman, a novel from 1995. Good luck getting it at the library. I recommend an ebook because you won't have trouble finding a copy. It's digital. And it is about a person in their life who did not know men. They were a woman who only knew women. And it's a sci-fi novel, right?
Yep,
it's obviously not real.
It is broadly...
The title is literal.
Yep, but based on what little I know about it, because I haven't started reading yet, it is broadly in line with the dystopia we are all facing, and it is a timely book to revisit, according to people who have been writing about it a bunch recently.
It's a timeless science fiction novel, much like, your Brave New Worlds and your 1984.
I am really sick of the dystopian sci-fi being the more timeless sci-fi.
That's how it's always been, though.
Oh yeah, so all that, I keep, because we're doing another version of that panel, Emily and I, probably at MagFest, like we're continuing to explore meta context, and everything I read about modernity, the professors all basically say the same thing different ways, and it boils down to, since the emergence of certain modern structures, humanity has careened from crisis to crisis at an accelerating pace, and that seems to be the only form of evolution we experience anymore. Just crisis to crisis. Every crisis is the prelude to the next one.
Experience biological evolution.
Yep, but cultural evolution.
No one has lived that long.
But modernity caused cultural evolution to move from also being longer than the span of one human to being like multiple generations of culture come and go in the span of like someone being a teenager.
Yep.
So, anyway, let's get into, at PAX Unplugged, which is coming up. I was pulling up the schedule. We will be doing 2 events on Saturday, I think, at like 1:30 p.m. We're doing a brand new talk.
Oh, that's like a prime time.
I think it is. I'm going to pull up the schedule to see exactly when it is because I don't remember.
Saturday at 1 o'clock. It's the busiest day, like right after lunch. Or whatever.
We are popular panelists. And in fact, someone from MagFest just reminded me a few weeks ago, people keep asking for your talks, but don't give us any of those fucking repeats. All new content.
Rip's gonna do what he always does, take the old content, put a new title on it.
Actually, this one. So yes, 1:30 p.m. on Saturday, and I flagged it 13 plus because I can't stop saying fuck. It just happens.
Yep. We're from New York.
What do you want?
New York. It should be called New York Plus, not 13 plus.
I remember when I went off to RIT. But right before I did, I had been spending a lot more time online, and I was also hanging out in Rochester, even before I moved to New York. And my car died because the engine just blew up. And I'd open the hood because my grandpa was like, how bad could it be? Let's see this. Let's see. You said your engine blew up. Like, let's see what's up. This kid doesn't know what he's talking about. And I opened the hood. And my grandpa's looking at it, and I just said, it's fucked. And my grandpa doesn't react, and my grandma's like, oh my God, like young Rimmer said fuck. And me and my grandpa's like, yep, that about sums it up. But this is an all-new talk, messing up the rules. We're going to talk about, not just in board games, but also in like video games and tabletop, like board role-playing games, what it means to mess up rules, the context. We got a lot to say about messing up the rules. It'll be a fun one. It's all new, so we'll probably record it. But if you want to see something that we've never done before, that'll be on Saturday at 1:30 p.m. And I think it's that night, but they haven't posted this part of the schedule yet. We will be hosting a learn and play of a classic tabletop game, Citadels, which I haven't thought much about until recently. We are very, very good at Citadels for reasons. And I think the way we're going to do this one is we're going to teach everyone the game.
I have to remember the game, and also there have been some updates, I think. We have to check on those.
I got the rules, the current rules, the newest ones I could find. I was reading through them, and I started making the slides for the teaching. But I want to try something different. I haven't run this by Scott. So, Scott, here's what I'm thinking. Because unlike, say, Carcassonne or Puerto Rico, when we give people strategy, it's not like, here is a game-breaking strategy. It's not like, hey, Mario Kart DS, we're going to teach you all how to snake first. So I think we teach everyone the game, and we warn them that after they've played for about an hour, we're going to stop them, and then we're going to tell them the broken strategy, and then allow them to continue. So,
my only hesitation on that good idea is the time. How much time will there be?
2 hours.
Yeah. So we got to teach the game, and then people are really going to play 2 games of Citadel?
No, I don't think they're going to play 2 games. I think we're going to teach the game, let them start playing, and at a time, regardless if they finish their ongoing game. Imagine halfway through everyone's games, pencils down, and then we walk up and then we explain, here's all the broken bullshit you can do to ruin this game. Here's the best possible strategy. Yeah, just one thing.
One thing, really. Yeah.
We'll teach them that one thing, and then we'll see how play progresses. I want to see how people, like, what that does to the tables. That was my thinking. That was my only cool idea. And otherwise, PAX Unplugged, super fun time. I highly recommend going. And if you are there, let us know. Maybe we will see you and talk about playing a game and then not find a table and then not play a game. All right. So, tech bubbles.
Yeah. So people, I think, everyone's talking about the AI bubble, and I really hate saying AI because it's not AI. It's not even close.
Yep.
But it's really hard to also just keep saying like LLM or neural whatever all the time.
I mean, what I'll say in my personal professional opinion, but not the opinion of my employer or employers, I will simply say that I believe large language models specifically have very narrow applicability to any problem and are largely a dead end of technology.
Agree.
And I would defend that at length if you wanted to challenge me on it.
Yes, there are limited cases where they are useful and a good idea, and this thinking that they can solve all these problems is wrong thinking anyway. But yeah, there's much talk. You could just read it in the news. That's the news headlines are like, we're in an AI bubble. It's like, well, how could it be a bubble if everybody knows? Right? I think a lot of people, they have the general understanding that a bubble means that stock prices are too high and that the bubble will burst and then the stock market will go down. And that is correct. That's what a bubble is. But I don't think people know what a bubble is to a greater extent or to any more detail than that overly broad explanation.
And bubbles are very different in different sectors, in different but so we're talking specifically about a very certain kind of bubble. And to be very clear, we are not registered investment advisors. Nothing we are about to say constitutes investment advice in any capacity. And we're speaking solely.
No, my investment advice is don't.
And that is not actually investment advice. It is simply an opinion framed in the form of advice.
Yeah. Anyway, so what is a bubble actually, and why does tech have a lot more bubbles, right? Or industries where it's tech right now, technology, computers, information technology specifically, is the industry that has had a lot of bubbles recently.
This next question comes from Kate,
because it's the industry where there's the most advancement and the most societal impact.
Yep. I mean, think about our lives. From high school onward, we went from smartphones didn't exist, cell phones were barely accessible, the internet was like barely accessible and was like mostly GeoCities sites and Telnet, to what we live in now. Like,
there could be bubbles in other industries that have major advancements, right? There could be a medical bubble in a medical pharmaceutical industry. There could be bubbles in aerospace or transportation, right? But not so much. Right? For reasons we're going to explain. So, what is a tech bubble actually? Why do they happen? They happen because some idea gets out there. In this case, the idea for the 90s was the web. Yep. The idea from now is LLMs.
Like the .com bubble is the archetypical tech bubble.
Yes, exactly. And so an idea comes out, and people, rightly or wrongly, recognize that's the hot new shit. Yep. That's going to change society somewhat. That's a big deal. right? Private companies are going to develop that technology, deploy it, and profit from it. And you're not wrong. That's going to happen, right? It happened with the web. And the web isn't gone, right? Companies deployed it, developed it, and profited.
Smartphones, railroads, transistors.
Right. It's like if you see a technological innovation, if you see a sector or, mRNA vaccines, any invention, television, radio, right? Any major invention that appears that you think is going to have a big impact on society, the companies that are responsible and own that technology will profit massively and be important. And therefore, if you invest in those companies early, you stand significant financial gains.
Now,
right?
here is where this becomes like mistake number one that happens. These types of thoughts are not special. They are obvious. Like, they are patently obvious. Like,
they've reached the point of obviousness. There was a time, right, before they were obvious. There are people who invested in the web before it was hot, before anyone even knew. Right before that, the news, but as soon as the news on like the 8 o'clock news was like information superhighway, it's not new, right? Too late, right? But before then, people could have invested in the web when like Mosaic 1 came out.
Well, I don't know if they could have. Here's the challenge where I'm getting to. Knowing this is going to be a big deal is very different from knowing how specifically to invest in or capitalize on that fact. It's not the web's going to be big. You have to pick which specific companies are going to make it big on the web. Which specific...
If you're rich, you can just do all of them, but regardless.
Yes, but normal people can't do all of them. And even rich people will often get it wrong. Like the way a lot of venture capital works is, let's say, I don't know, I think I have a good idea. I'm going to make money by selling Indian street food in like American cities that don't have it. Then the venture capitalist, would form a fund and fund 10 different companies or 10 different people who all think they have a good idea about Indian street food. And if 9 of them go bankrupt and 1 of them makes it big, I still make my money. Like, I'm good. I don't give a shit about the other 9. But everyone else who invests in like further rounds often will be investing in one of the ones that's going to fail because they don't know better. Nobody knows better.
Or even if it goes well, they're getting less than whoever's earlier. Early bird gets the worm. Right.
So the second thing that then happens is what Scott was going to talk about next is the news, coupled with people feeling smart because they know, smartphones are going to change everything.
They're not wrong.
Yeah, they're not wrong. But everyone gets enthusiastic about it. And as soon as people are enthusiastic and optimistic, it's like they lose all grasp of moderation.
Yeah, people start. So let's say it's 2007 and the iPhone 1 is announced, right? And everyone sees that and is like, oh, well, all the other phones are fucked, right? It's like smartphones are the shit now, right? And everyone so smart buys Apple. You're not wrong. Apple's going to do well selling iPhones, dominating the world with iPhones, right? But how much are they going to dominate the world with iPhones? Are they going to dominate the world with iPhones enough to justify a stock price of 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000? Right?
Yep.
It's like, okay, I'll buy Apple. Well, what is Apple's price right now? Is it, everyone's trying to buy Apple. They're bidding against each other. There's only so many shares. It's not like new shares of Apple are being made. There's only so many of them. The supply stays flat unless there's a split or something. And so more people are trying to buy shares of Apple. No new shares come into existence. Price go up. Is the price? It's like, you can buy a share of Apple and iPhones are going to do well, but is it worth $500 a share? $600?
And even worse, then you fall into this like ugly wisdom of stupid crowds where the stock price goes way high to the point that it is higher than any reasonable like actual profitability of anything the company could ever do factors into that. But then
so
other people see, oh, the stock is going up so fast, I should get in on that, and they buy high, which drives it even higher. And then more people think, oh, I should buy, and people start buying high, and then most of them are going to end up selling low.
Right. So what happens is, even though you have a technology that is new, right, and is going to succeed in the business world and is going to be commercially successful, that's sort of the phrase I'm looking for, right? And even though you invested in it, maybe, right, it's like the price. Everyone has this idea because it's so obvious. The price of the stocks gets out of control.
And this is something I have some
actual value underlying the stock price, how much profit is actually being made by the business, even if it's successful, is not enough to hold up that stock price, which eventually at some point has to come down.
And this is a case where, in my professional experience, because I've worked in capital markets for 20 years, this is actually an area of my expertise. You're pretty much spot on. And we're at this point. This is my personal, deeply held, extremely angry opinion. Never mind the fact that I think 401ks were a deep scam perpetrated by the American people.
That's a separate problem we can talk about
related
another day. Yeah.
Because the original purpose of stock was to raise capital so that business ventures could be begun by groups of people with shared risk and shared reward, instead of requiring a rich person to fund everything and risk everything. The whole point of this was to raise capital. And in return for providing some amount of the capital that a new company or an existing company will use to do something, you get in return a share of the company, meaning a share of the profits, a share in ownership in the company itself. But increasingly, the secondary market, meaning you don't just own a share of the company and collect your dividends. You also might say, well, I own a share of the East India Company, and I think tea is going to be really big, but I'd like some money now. I'll sell my share, and Scott might buy the share from me for more than I paid for it because he expects to get more dividends over time. And their secondary market was driven by the value of the stock and the value of owning a share of the company and the value of the dividends the company would pay out from its profits. You'll notice very few stocks pay dividends anymore. And the secondary market now, in my opinion, is driven almost entirely by hype and vibes and sentiment about the company, and less so, especially in United States equities and tech stocks in particular, any particular fundamentals about the finances of the company itself.
Right. So in the dot-com bubble, what happened was all these companies were raising money, not as much with venture capital, though that was definitely a thing, but they were IPOing these companies in the 90s, right? And
actually, the venture capital during that time was also some of the highest in American history.
It was, but the IPO now, I'm saying is compared to now, there's no IPOs now, almost none.
Oh,
right? Yeah. It's there were lots of IPOs back in those days that people were using to raise money. And what happened was, some of the companies weathered, right? It's when the dot-com bubble burst, Amazon's price went down, but they survived. eBay went down, but they survived.
Pets.com didn't survive.
No, no, some of them died, right? And so what happened is there were so many of these companies that had IPO'd, and so many of them, right, were not profitable and didn't even stand up a company or really do anything. Right?
Yep.
It's they had all this investment money put into them, and it's so either the company never made any money back, it didn't profit, it didn't stand up a successful business. So eventually the point came where it's well, I own a piece of this worthless company that I can see that they're not fucking doing anything. Do I sell it now to some schmo and get some amount of money back?
Yeah.
Right? Or do I hold on to it and the company just goes out of business and I'm left holding the bag?
Yep.
So everyone realizes basically around the same time, as soon as one person sells, the prices go down and then it landslides. And
this is why you'll notice cryptocurrency bros always talk about the hodl or the hold. They always encourage people to hold on to their cryptocurrency. That's because they don't want anyone selling it. Because if anyone sells, the value goes down. And if a lot of people sell, they go down to zero.
But anyway, and so that's what happened then. So now there's less IPOing now, right? But there's still tons of venture capital that people have put into companies that are claiming to do something revolutionary with LLMs, right?
And this is exactly what's happening now. These investments are disproportionate to any reasonable amount of money you could ever make directly from this technology.
And the technology is very expensive. You need to buy compute time or have GPUs or data centers to even do this in the first place. And you need to hire expensive talent to even develop these things. So the companies get venture capital to develop some LLM nonsense, and they burn through that money really fast. And if they don't turn a profit before the money runs out, they either need another fool to put good money after bad, or the same fool to put more good money after bad, or they just shut down and all the people who put money in are holding nothing, right? They got shares of a company that doesn't exist anymore, just throw it away.
Yep.
So as soon as these companies start to fold or people stop investing and keeping them afloat, that's going to be that.
Yep.
And it also includes the big companies, right? It's not just investment in a company. It's also a company investing in it, right? You know, Microsoft has a division doing this, and Apple has a division doing this, and they've invested their company's resources into that. And if that part of your company fails, it's a lot like when Google is like, hey, you know what? We have to turn off Google Wave. That didn't work out. Right?
And it might be that like this AI investment is basically leveraged in that a lot of the money that is pouring into these companies and pouring into this research and development of advanced AI, and I'm making finger quotes, that's all being funded by debt or investors who are going to expect a return. And if those returns
well, interest rates, right? You know, the interest rates are high. It's harder to invest in things because you go to get a loan.
And I point out, I'm going to read from Wikipedia from the dot-com boom. Quote, low interest rates in 1988 to 1999 facilitated an increase in startup companies. The dot-com bubble burst in 2000.
Right, because if interest rates are low, you get a loan and the interest rate is tiny. So if your investment just makes a little bit, it works out okay, right?
Yep.
Then you pay back the loan and you got money left over, even if you pay the interest.
Yeah.
If interest rates are high, it's like, well, if I'm going to get a loan to invest, that's got to be gangbusters investment. Otherwise, I'm losing because I got to pay back this interest rate.
Let's go all the way back to 1929, the stock market crash that destroyed the world. People were borrowing money from banks with low interest and buying stock with it because they assumed the stock would go up and then they could pay the loan off and it was free money. And everybody did this. And
it worked for people who sold early enough.
It did. And thus leading to, and again, I cannot stress enough, I am not advising you to do anything in particular, but I'm going to share what I have done with my investments. I don't own any U.S. stocks anymore except Hasbro, because I've owned a lot. I have been investing in Hasbro continuously since Ponies came out. Like, that's just my long-term, like, I care a lot about that company personally. Like, it's a very specific investment. Nintendo, because duh. And like, those are the only two stocks I own anymore. I have liquidated everything I own into cash. And in terms of my retirement funds, I have actually moved everything into either bonds or non-US, non-tech investments. Like, I have moved everything into the safest, most boring, no returns crap over the last, 6 weeks.
I'm just sticking with index fund.
All I'm saying is if there is a broad bubble that bursts, index funds will take a big hit.
That would be true, but I'm going ultra long term. Even if somebody invested in index funds way back in the day and just held for a long time, even though there've been mega, .com bubble, if you bought index funds in the 80s and held them through the .com bubble, through the 2008 crash, you would still be doing great now. And if there's if that's what's going to happen, it'll be okay. I'll lose some now, but I'm not retiring tomorrow. If I was retiring like tomorrow, next week, yeah, of course I wouldn't be.
Well, see, my thinking is a little more subtle. My thinking is, if I assume that this bubble is going to burst in the next couple of years,
if you wisely sold and then the bubble burst, and
but I can give more specifics
afterwards.
No, but I'm risking very little because the stock market is really high right now. So all those retirement investments are really high. They're not going to skyrocket in the next few years. If they do, if I move into bonds and cash, and now I don't have these index funds, and the stock market skyrockets for the next 2 or 3 years, then the mistake I have made is I missed out on those profits, but I lost nothing. However, if there is a crash, I have effectively gained a huge amount of money. So I'm giving up.
It's too gambly to try to decide when to stop and when to start again.
Well,
right?
it's the difference between the gambling of sell versus buy broadly compared to move a retirement fund into a low risk profile for a couple of years. How much can it go up in the next 3 years?
Right. So this is a tech episode, not a finance episode. But so how can you tell, right, when, right, you always see in the news, oh, it's a bubble, right? Why do these bubbles keep happening, right? And how do you tell when it is and when it's not? If everyone just says it is, how come it hasn't burst yet, right? Well, how come everyone hasn't sold, right? Even though the news is like, yeah, everyone's so sure it's a bubble. Why haven't they sold yet? Right? So it keeps happening because we need the way you make money is there has to be growth of some kind, right? There's no money to be made in just holding steady, right? If like Apple just keeps selling the same number of iPhones every year and is profitable and successful and pays all their employees and is doing great, investors don't like that. They need to see growth. And the only way to get growth is to either sell what you're selling to someone who isn't buying it already, but companies, especially the big tech companies, are already selling phones to the whole world, right? You can get an iPhone basically anywhere. So it's not like, if iPhones weren't available in, I don't know, Europe at all, and then they announced iPhones finally in Europe. Okay, growth, right? Yep. But no, they're everywhere, iPhones. So
Apple tries to do things like the ProVision whatever that obviously is gone now because it.
Right.
Who bought that?
It's not gone now. They actually just updated it. But
but it's who owns one?
No, right. That no one believed in that to begin with, so it couldn't be a bubble. No one invested in the first place because it doesn't look like it's a good idea, right? No one was sold on that. But the only way that they can grow is to have a new idea to sell a new thing to people who are already their customers. And so companies come up with new ideas in the tech sector, right? Like crypto or LLMs. Yep. And it's like, okay, you have a new idea and it's like selling something is successful to a new market is a shoo-in, right? You say, oh, sell iPhones to Europe. They never had them before. It's like, well, we saw how successful they were everywhere else. It's going to work. Is LLM going to work? I don't know.
Well, I have a very specific data point I use for that, and this is personal, anecdotal. When I see something in technology that the tech companies are really heavily advertising, giving free trials of, and pushing hard at people, but yet I very rarely see people using them on purpose, and I mostly see people complaining about trying to turn the things off, I just assume that's a bubble. Just like the more ads I see for something, the less I trust it. And you know what? That's never steered me wrong.
I mean, we know because we're in the tech sector, we have tech knowledge that it's not that useful. Yep. It's a bunch of hype. We see studies and we use it. We've tested it out. We've seen what it can do.
I have used LLMs extensively, and they.
I use them not extensively, and it didn't take much for me to see them.
My personal conclusions were that they can solve no problem I have, and they're worse at everything I could do myself, except for generative AI.
There are limited use cases like helping to subtitle a video as long as a human edits it afterwards.
Or I tried using generative AI to
selecting a subject in a photo instead of having to use the pen tool. It's a little faster.
Extending a video of Scott saying something on a panel by an extra second to cover for the fact that I coughed and I wanted to keep the camera on Scott. Like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. They have uses, but those uses do not justify the amount of investment. It's like
those uses are not going to make $600 billion.
Yeah, no one's paying $600 billion to get a product that does any of those things.
Yep.
Right. So Yeah. So, but the point is, it's always a new idea in tech that people have to bet on whether that idea is going to be, and it's not a sure thing. And there are people who are believers and people who come up who just have wild imaginations, not based in reality, who they have to get in early, right, in order for it to be a successful investment, which it means they have to believe in something, right? And then they sell other people on that belief who might be foolish or not, right? And that's why they're coming out with all these outlandish things, right? Like, oh yeah, it's real AI, guys, we swear. It's
well, there's more things that happen here very broadly when there's a big tech bubble. Usually, you'll have a bunch of money that comes in to try to invest in it, and then that money spends a lot of its own money, like capital spends its capital on advertising the thing and generating hype about the thing to increase the investment in it to make their early investment more profitable. So the machine starts priming itself, and the money causes hype. The hype brings in more money. The money is spent on more hype. But then you hit a point where all the people who invested early must succeed or they're fucked. And that is when they start to crank up the hype machine over all the other machines they could be running.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's why you don't see that happening in like another industry. Let's say, I mean, sometimes you can see something in, I'll say medicine, right? Yep. Because it's more obvious, right, that the thing is going to work or not. And the only times you get surprises are like, oh, this medicine that was so great is actually, oopsie, there was discovered way later some side effects, right? But there's so many studies in advance and so many trials in advance, and it's, so thoroughly tested that, it's somewhat rare, and it's not an industry-wide bubble. It might be specific to like one company or one project or one product that bubbles and fails, but it's not like an industry-wide thing where it's like, oh no, medicine doesn't work. We were wrong. It's like, medicine. Oh, no.
I mean, it is kind of a political issue in the U.S. right now that, it turns out medicine never worked. That's our belief.
Yeah, right? Or it's like, oh no, it turns out that car doesn't drive. None of them. Right? It might be one car is like a boondoggle. Like,
I mean, Tesla kind of is the car doesn't drive. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, right? Tesla is like one car that's a boom, but not all of them, right? But it's like here, it's like, when there's a new idea, all the tech companies basically have to go in on it because they don't have anything else, right? Even you could see even Apple somewhat reluctantly and belatedly got in on the LLMs, but I guess they didn't believe in it or they just whatever. But it's like they're sort of forced to do some Apple intelligence, right? Almost it seems like against their will and not even doing a good job of it somehow. And it's like because the whole industry has to go along with the one thing, that makes it a bubble, right? Whereas opposed to just one company had a bad product and some people made a bad choice on that company, but the industry wasn't wrong. Yep. It's not like aerospace, planes stop flying.
But it all comes down to investors require very high returns on their investments for a lot of reasons that is only accelerating, and that will drive bubble after bubble after bubble. And there are no non-political solutions to that problem.
No. So as a person, you just have to invest wisely, not following our advice, following advice of someone who can legally give you advice.
Talk to a registered investment advisor.
Don't gamble. And, the other thing is you have to, you have to not think about just your financial investment, right? You have to think about other investments, right? If you invest time into learning LLMs and they fail, right? That you sort of, that's sort of a bubble bursting on you, right? You invested your time and resources in the wrong idea. There are also side effects that can happen, right? Famously, during the dot-com bubble, a lot of these companies went out of business, right? Those companies with the VC the investment that they got, what did they use that investment money on before they failed? Well, they hired employees, right? Sure.
Air-on chairs and ping pong tables.
They bought air-on chairs, ping pong, and computers. And so when the bubble burst, right, that hurt actually. Dell or Aeron or Herman Miller, I guess, makes Aeron chairs, right? It's like it hurt these other industries because like suddenly the market is flooded with like used powerful computers and nobody wants because, right? It's like when this bubble bursts, which I'm somewhat confident it will, the GPU price will go way down, right? Because there'll be a bunch of GPUs that have been manufactured and nobody will really need them except gamers and 3D artists and such. And the supply will be great. And the companies that were using them won't be using them anymore and they will be for sale. And we can acquire them at a reasonable cost. And NVIDIA will be trying to make new ones that very few people want. And the price of those will have to come down. And you see how these side effects can start to happen here.
That's how I'll get my second 4080 for VR.
Yeah. I mean, if I buy like a 5080, 6080, and then the mobile burst, I'll just put a second one in. Why not?